All right, let's get it going right here, right now. This is Eyes Up Here. This is an Eyes Up Here YouTube exclusive. It's part of our Darkside of the Ring review series that we've been covering all season 4 of Darkside of the Ring. This time, we're going to dig deep into the world according to Marty. But you didn't know by now, my name is Chad, and as always, I'm joined here by the Queen of Extreme, Francine. Francine, we've been talking about this one for pretty much the whole time we've been talking about this season of Darkside of the Ring. That season has come and gone. We saw all we needed to see about Marty Jannetty's crazy life. We're going to talk about it here on this early morning. But before we get into that, how are you?
I'm doing well on this early Wednesday morning. I just got done watching it. I went to sit down because I DVR'd it last night. And, 10 o'clock is way too late for me to get into a program. I'm like in La La Land by then, sleeping. But the DVR was giving me problems. The cable system said, not right now, come back later. I was like, excuse me. So I had to watch it online. And thankfully, there were a bunch of people who jumped on the bandwagon and posted the story. But the problem with that is they had to cut out the WWF clips with the music. So it was a little choppy here and there when I watched it. So if I missed something, I'm sorry. But I think I got the gist of the story. And again, I don't know Marty well at all. I've met him once or twice. Very nice man. One time he came over to my table and he was just kind of looking at my pictures and just kind of standing there. And I said, hey, and he goes, hey, how are you? And I said, good, how are you? And that was the gist of it. So I never knew what I saw. Like, I never knew anything about the man. I always heard Marty Jannetty's crazy. That's all I ever heard. I'm just like, okay, well, he's a wrestler. Wrestlers get this, persona of being out there and crazy and this and that. Well, watching this today made me think, it's a little strange. It's like the boy who cried wolf kind of deal, like with them saying he's making up all these elaborate stories and I didn't know anything about him, so this was an eye-opener for me.
Interesting.
Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff that I had heard before, some stories that again with Darkside of the Ring, if you're somebody who follows the history of the business and the personalities, you've heard these stories before, but I love their dramatic retellings of them, so that's what I do get into with them. But yeah, these stories have been out there in the past, but they did leave out a couple of things that I think would have enhanced the stories a little bit more.
Well,
so that's always my critique with them when it comes to the storytelling, not even the jumping from one place to one place to one place. That even my wife, who was watching with me, said, wow, how did they get from 1992 to 1998 like that? And that's somebody who knows nothing about anything having to do with Marty Jannetty or his career. And she was like, how did they go from he broke up with Shawn Michaels to he's in WCW within 35 seconds? So
maybe because nothing of note happened in those 6 years to,
he was fired by the WWF, 6 times for drugs and other things in the house around, and they just covered it like that. I get it. I understand.
We can go over that. And if you know something, because I only know what I've watched, if you've heard something or know something and want to add, as we're discussing it in the way the timeline goes, feel free to jump in. But I like I said, I didn't know anything about Marty. I just heard he was kind of crazy. I have watched the Rockers, not in their heyday now, because I was not a fan of wrestling when they were super over. But who didn't hear of the Rockers? Like, they were the tag team to watch. So I didn't know the story about how they were fired after a week. Allegedly got into that. Well, not allegedly, it happened. they're working there a week and then they get into that fight at the bar.
Yeah. Well, so what happened? They do their match at the TV taping.
Yeah.
They go out with the boys, and Jimmy Jack Funk, who was a not real Funk brother, was Jesse Barr. Basically, did the thing that Marty said. I heard you guys are real partiers, and they were like, "Oh, no, 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 we're here, we're on our good behavior, first night in, whatever." And they kept getting pushed. That was the other thing too. They didn't really go into that. Like they were getting egged on by the guys.
Well, they're the
Do something,
rookies, of course.
yeah, do something crazy. So that's where Shawn Michaels picked up the bottle and you want something crazy?
Well, wait a minute. He bit the glass. He bit the glass first. The guy.
Yeah, Jimmy
it?
Jack bites the glass.
Yeah.
And Shawn Michaels goes, "You want something crazy?"
I can't
and then he
do
breaks
that,
the
but I
bottle
can
over
do
his
this.
head. Right.
Yes. Next thing you know, they're picking up shot glasses. They're throwing them over the bar. I wonder what the bartender must have shit his pants at this point. What do you do? You know what I mean? Like it's like chaos, havoc.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nuts. So so they get in that bar fight and then they're fired. They're gone from
that was they were brought in originally. Who knows how long they would have been there had they stayed? But no, they're cut after a couple of days and sent back to they go back to AWA, but they go down to Memphis area, and they basically are starved out. So they go from getting signed by the WWF to being almost starved out of the business.
But it might be a good thing because they pick up some momentum. And they're superstars in that territory. People are watching them, and they say they caught Vince McMahon's eye a second time because they're so over down there. Right. So they get brought back for the second run, which technically is kind of still the first run because they really didn't do much on their first run together. But the dynamics of that team was incredible. Like I watched like the girls. I was watching the fans and the girls' reactions when they would come out, and it was just like it reminded me of like the boy band concerts when you see the little girls screaming and they're, these two were super duper over, especially with the ladies. Now, the one thing I always heard were the stories with now not me, but they're calling them rats. Okay. They were at every show possible waiting afterwards. I've always heard the stories that they didn't really get into too much. I mean, there was that one lady. I love when Marty they said, "Is that your girlfriend?" And he's like, "Well, in that town it was, because they're in every town." But the stories, I thought they would dive a little deeper as to what they actually did. I've heard like them halcyoning, the girls, stripping them naked, shaving their eyebrows, leaving them in the hallway and just, going on with their business. And the girl would wake up and she wouldn't have her clothes. She'd be naked, no eyebrows. Like, I've heard horrifying stories about those guys. Now, I don't know if it was true. Thank God I was never a part of any of that nonsense. But, I thought that would have been discussed more, and it wasn't.
Agreed.
Yeah. So that was the one thing that I was like, oh, they kind of left that kind of.
The original plane ride from hell.
With, it wasn't on a plane, though. It was
the guy who was kind of being a dick to all the wrestlers in first class. And I think is Halcyon, is that the H-bomb?
Yeah.
Yeah, they H-bombed the guy in first class, did the same thing to him, and it ended up becoming this whole big debauchery in the first class around the guy who was complaining about them.
Oh,
the original plane ride from hell.
I think that's what they used, or HG.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not up on my drugging lingo.
I thought it was Halcyon. Maybe I'm wrong. Somebody can leave it in the comments. I don't know.
Whatever one of the boys who told me this. One of the boys who told me the story used the lingo, so I'm just repeating. But there's another one where there was a groupie rat, whatever you want to call them, in a wheelchair, who was waiting for her time, and they ended up using her wheelchair and riding it up and down the hallways of the hotel, similar to what he did with the cops' motorcycle. Right? So they rode the wheelchair all up and down the aisles of the hotel, And when it got time for, her turn, she was being a little coy and wasn't coming forward in the manner that Marty thought she would. So he's like, "Oh no, don't be shy, don't be shy." It turned out she was plugged into the wall because they had worn down the battery of the wheelchair.
Wow.
It's like this. It's just this weird stuff that
Yeah.
he's got these interesting little stories and these tidbits and these things that you hear about by other people in other shoots or other interviews, but he'll tell you, he'll offer it, he'll just say it. But now, like you're saying, is it true, is it false? But sometimes I got to tell you,
It's entertaining.
I think it's entertaining, but sometimes I think a lot of it is true because
Well,
he is that out there.
I feel like some of the shoot interviews that he's done have probably told more than the Darkside
Oh yeah,
episode.
absolutely.
Like,
Yeah.
if you want to know the juicy stuff, you need to go look him up in one of his shoot interviews, because I've seen clips along, the way of him telling stories about these girls and stuff that he's done. And that's why I kind of thought it would carry over just maybe one or two things. I didn't think the whole hour was going to be like a rat fest or anything, but I just thought there'd be more stories about him and Sean. They did say like the ladies would line up in the hotel, outside the room and wait their turn, and they would just one by one go in and do their deal, and someone would come out and someone would go in, which is just crazy to me. But they had it like that. I suppose they were super over. I think I just wanted a little more. Wanted to know a little more about what went down with
like I've been building this one up all season, and I have to say, as big of a Marty Jannetty fan that I've been for my whole entire wrestling life, I was super underwhelmed by this one. I was very disappointed, I have to say. I out of all the ones that we've watched, because we didn't watch them all, we missed a couple. I was the most hyped for this, and this I felt under-delivered the most.
Well, the one thing that I was kind of like, what happened with this is what we mentioned earlier with the motorcycle. When they were overseas, I forget where they were, but he says to the cop, "Can I ride? Can I ride?" And he goes and they open the door for him, and he ride. There's footage, so this is a true story. He rides into the hotel lobby, and he goes and hits the fountain and hits. I guess he hits one of the guys who were sitting there, who I don't think was a worker. I think he was just a regular customer.
Like a hotel patron.
Now, what happened with that? Did he get arrested? Was he sued by that man? Did that man get hurt? Like, they didn't elaborate on what happened that day. And I hate when these stories don't give you a conclusion to what just happened.
Yeah, that I don't know.
Yeah, no, they didn't explain. Like, over the years, he gets arrested for this. He gets arrested for that. He gets house arrest. He does drugs, blah, blah, blah. Well, they actually have footage of something that we know is a true story, but they don't give us the outcome. Did he get in trouble? When you get in trouble overseas, it is hard to get back home.
Yeah.
If you go into like a prison that is not a U.S. prison and you're an American citizen, that is hard to get out of. So what were the consequences that he suffered from doing something like that? I know he didn't kill anybody, or, it wasn't a huge deal, but I mean, that's kind of like a crazy story. Did he get in trouble? What are the laws there?
I don't know if he did, because, exactly. He would have probably spent some time away and away from the wrestling world. But that was a big tour that they did in '96 of India and the Middle Eastern countries. And there was, I think they were a couple of guys with camcorders, and the footage has kind of leaked out over the years. So I think that there would have been more stories about him being locked up, because the story from the following year was when Vader got locked up, because Vader grabbed the guy by the tie because he said wrestling was fake, and there was that. I don't know if that exactly was one of the instances where he did get in trouble, but it was just cool that they had the footage, and Al Snow could attest to it.
Yeah, and I'm also thinking because the cop willingly gave his motorcycle over, maybe he was just like, well, we'll just get you out of here because I gave you the motorcycle. Maybe the cop could have gotten in trouble for that as well. And that's why nothing was done, because the cop did say, here's my motorcycle, go ahead and ride it. You know what I mean? So
another thing I didn't love on this one was the talking heads, because I didn't feel they were used correctly. Pat Tanaka, one of Marty's best friends, was used perfectly and partied. There could be a Dark Side of the Ring Pat Tanaka, okay? Partied just as hard with Marty. It was great to be on there. Beefcake could be on there. Barbershop. Missy Beefcake did not belong on that show.
Was she in the business?
Now, I believe she was in a business that was connected to wrestling in some sort of fashion after the wrestling matches were over. I don't think she was in the business at all. I think she might have done some of the dancing that was talked about in the show.
Okay.
But I know Missy Beefcake on the promoter side because she's a little bit of a bitch when it comes to dealing with Brutus. But what does she have to do with any of this stuff going on? Why was she even commenting on anything going on?
I don't know.
Like, she did not need to be on there. And I liked Al Snow commenting on the stuff that he could comment on with Marty and his dealings with Marty. But I don't like when they use guys out of timeline to comment on stuff that happened before them hearing about what happened before. Like, again, they had Shane talking about Bam Bam. Shane was boys with Marty and Sean when he was there in 1990. Like, he could have commented on the stuff that went on between them, but they're talking out of timeline, and I hate that when they do that on these shows.
I thought Mike Moran was
awesome.
Yeah, I thought he was a really good interview on this one. I feel like Al was good because he was his partner for the second run. And he knew him well and worked with him. The Beefcake one I understood because of the barbershop. I got that connection. The wife, I didn't get why she was there. But good for her for getting a payday.
Yeah, she got a payday. And then the comment at the end.
I guess as a couple, they've encountered Marty, whether it was, I don't know how long him and her have been married, but I mean, she acted like she knew him well. So I don't know, whatever. The stories to me were interesting. The one that I was just baffled on was what they closed with. Now I'm jumping ahead.
Okay, yes.
I'm jumping ahead, but this is the one story that stuck out for me. Well, first of all, I'll talk about that in a minute. My heart broke when I saw his ankle.
Yeah.
So he looked like he had like gout or gangrene or whatever that I don't think it was, but it was so swollen. And when I saw, his pants were so tight because it was so swollen. And when I saw him in a wheelchair, that kind of threw me because I've never seen, like, the last time I saw him, he was walking around. So I guess he's progressively getting worse, as the years go on, which is heartbreaking. And I've said it so many times, these wrestlers have nothing to fall back on. They start at such a young age. There's no pension. There's no Social Security unless you pay into it, which, let's face it, a lot of these boys don't, because you're getting paid cash in your later years and there's no trace. You know what I'm saying? So there's no Social Security. There's nothing for them. There's no union. There's nothing. So to see him in that state just broke my heart, and it brings me back to the movie The Wrestler, when the guy sits there and there's like one fan that comes over and you sign one art and you're looking around, there's nobody there. It is a sad and lonely life. If you don't have somebody to share your life with and have children that love you and are around you, what do you have? You have your memories. Oh, and you'll always see these old timers pull up pictures. This is me in 1996. This is when I was on TV and I was over. I mean, it's nice to have memories, but dude, it's not 1996 anymore. You know what I mean? They're living in the past.
Right.
90% of these guys, they're living in the past, and it is so sad to watch. I don't know. It just, seeing his ankle, seeing him in that chair, and just being alone, and them saying, oh, he has Facebook, and that's what keeps him happy and makes him feel like he's worth something, or however that is a terrible, terrible way to live.
Yeah, and he gets himself in trouble via Facebook.
Well, I have screenshots of some of those Facebook.
Yeah, so some of those Facebooks are bad, and the one that they picked up on and glanced over was the thing with the daughter, and I remember when that was happening, and that was pretty bad. But like I have a friend of mine that he would just, as a goof, he created a fake account just to poke at Jannetty because he just would get. He would just get into it, but not even like here's what he would comment. So Marty would write one of those soliloquies, right? That makes zero sense. It would start talking about something that happened on the road back in the day, and it would just tail off into some just nonsense, right? Buddy of mine comment on it, and the name he used was Michael Hickentopper. So Shawn Michaels, real name is Michael Hickenbottom. So he called it Michael Hickentopper. So he would write something like, Marty, get off the computer. Marty, do this. Marty, do that. Mike, Marty, I'm your friend. Mike, whatever. So Marty would fight with him in the comments, but then message him on the side and be like, Mike, we're working a great angle. Keep it going.
My God.
And it's just like, it's so like this guy, this is really all he lived for was the Facebook.
Sad.
And when they said that is legit. And, it's funny, like, when the thing I thought, which you can kind of go back to kind of equate to the Facebook thing, was what was the God thing that he said?
Yeah. What was it? GAD?
GAG or GAF or whatever it was.
I forget.
But that was so poignant, I thought, to his overall like makeup, because he's had so many odd things happen to him in his life that he's got to think that black cloud is over him.
But
he has this little outlet.
He's passing the buck on God. He's blaming God for everything.
No, he is, but he uses this Facebook page as his outlet now because he can't get up and go work a show. He can't go out and and do what he wants to do. So he's got this little world he created as his playground, and it sucks because he can't do anything now. And it's I don't know. I felt bad.
I felt horrible for it. It's a heartbreaking thing to watch. These guys and ladies put their bodies on the line for your entertainment, and look at how most of them turn out.
Yeah.
Nothing. They have nothing, and it's so sad. Now I know we all make our own choices. That's the one thing you need to remember. He made, like they say, you made your bed, you have to lie in it, right? We all make our own choices. He has a pattern of making terrible choices, apparently.
Oh yeah. Big
it has to come to a point where you say to yourself, where is my life going? How am I going to end up when I am, X years old? That is always something that I envisioned, again, my story is different because I never wanted to be in the world of professional wrestling. I wanted to be a parent and a wife. That was my goal in life. That was what I dreamt of as a little girl. It was to be a mommy. A
princess of extreme before you're a queen of extreme.
I had different goals. Now I fell into the business and it worked for me, but I was smart enough to, realize that I can't do this forever. I can't depend on it forever, So I'm going to go a different route. And thank God I didn't fall into the traps of the drugs and the alcohol and the, I didn't have to worry about the womenizing because I'm a female. I don't do the rat thing. But you have to choose your path wisely. And a lot of these guys fall victim because of drugs, because of alcoholism, and they just make poor choices. And even though he's responsible for his actions, I still have pity because he was such a wonderful worker and he did give his all for the business. And look what happened. He has nothing to show for it but his memories. You sit there and you put on the TV and you watch old footage of yourself. Well, to me, that's great. And you left your legacy on this business, but what is it doing for you now? Absolutely nothing, because you can't walk, you can't work. He could do signings. He could still get out there and do signings. I don't know how many he does, but
he's had to stop. He's had to cut him down because he can't travel.
So to put your life on the computer and let it revolve around Facebook to get your jollies and work angles, what is that going to do? It's a pastime. Maybe it's fun. Maybe, maybe it's fun for him to do something like that. But I mean, my God, there is so much more to life than that. And it's a shame because he's limited and he doesn't have the resources and he doesn't have the support that he needs to just have a good, fulfilling life, because it's never too late to change and turn your life around. But does he have the support of people? Does he have a wife? Does he have a girlfriend? Does he have family that's going to back him?
I believe he lives with his brother now.
Okay, well,
that's what takes care of him.
At least he has a brother, but just to say that your life is Facebook, like, oh my God, no.
It's crazy. And that story with the daughter, again, got very, very downplayed in place of the murder story, which we'll get to at the end here, because I want to get to something else before we get to that.
Okay, because I took screenshots and I want to read every tweet or every Facebook post.
But let me build that one up before you read the screenshot. So the daughter story was interesting because I remember her very clearly. So he had a girlfriend that he would, post back and forth with. And, I guess it would say a legit girlfriend that, when he was on the road, they would talk and they would post, they were doing this, they were doing that. And it turned out he had this daughter with this girlfriend, right? And he would post pictures of the daughter and he would talk about hanging out with the daughter and the girlfriend. And then, like, out of the blue goes, oh, the paternity test came in and she's not my daughter, right? Mm-hmm. So then it came to that post that you have there where it said, if you want to read what the quote was.
There's several posts that started with, I've not done of cocaine in over an hour. This is probably why Bianca doesn't love me. I loves you, Bianca. Daddy is, and then it's blurred, but sure loves you. I promise to do better. Now, is Bianca the daughter?
That was the daughter,
okay.
Yeah.
Now it says, okay, I rarely do this, but going to ask you advice. She claims 20, which in Bama is legal, but does she look 20 to y'all? She said her mother is a huge fan of mine, but she will F me first. See, this is the shit y'all don't got to deal with. Do you think I don't want to? But not trusting on the age. Then somebody comments, so your point is, another comment, what are you on today? Then he writes, to all my ninjas, I want all y'all's advice. I just got a call. This one cracked me up. $150,000 for 3 movies, porno movies. Can't say the name, but it's a big company. I'm thinking my brother Snoop had something to do with this. Check this, though. I got to tear up some beautiful bitches, but as my brother said, my family could see that. But my thought is, why is my family watching porno then going to judge me? What do y'all think of that? That made me laugh. I don't know. The next one. If he loves me as much as I loves you, you will give your opinion. Just did DNA 2 weeks ago, and she's not my daughter. We both held out of sex because you don't do that. But now that we ain't, 4 question marks, from a guy's side, she's effing hot. But she's been daughter. I want to too, but can't get past that. So that was and then it goes into him killing the guy, which we'll discuss. But the daughter thing.
Yeah.
So it would have been smart to have her on to interview and give her side and see what her opinion was. I thought, is she even still out there somewhere? Maybe
she's out there somewhere. I don't know. But I remember when it unfolded. It was crazy.
Right. But does she still have a relationship with him? Like, when was that? It doesn't say what year that was posted. That's that he put that up.
That was like 2014, I want to say.
So that was a while ago. So
yeah, it was a while ago.
did they ever consummate their love now that she's not the daughter?
I don't know. I shudder to think with him. Now, another thing I have to say that they didn't comment. So he had this thing that he did where he would call himself the Wolf.
Okay.
Have you ever seen a picture of Marty Jannetty and he's going like this?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so.
So he would say that it wasn't him saying this stuff, it was the Wolf. So he would do this in pictures, and he would have people do this in pictures. I have to lower myself because I'm cut by my box. But he would do this in pictures and say it wasn't him, it was the Wolf.
So it's an alternate personality.
I guess, but again, this is his world. The world according to Marty. We're just living in it. So it's
okay.
Wasn't Marty, it was the Wolf.
So it's okay because it's the Wolf. Like the Wolf's crazy. The Wolf, can do what he wants, but
the Wolf can do it and
Marty.
say it. Yes.
Yeah, that's multiple personality disorder then. Holy moly, that's kind of like messed up.
You wonder why maybe Shawn Michaels distanced himself.
I wonder
over the years.
I wonder if the Wolf only came out when he was on drugs or drinking or something. Like if the Wolf needed to be persuaded to come out. Well, getting back to Shawn.
Yes.
Okay, let's go back. We're all over the place here because these stories are jumping in my head.
It was all over the place itself. The thing
true.
it was all over the place.
So, what is your opinion on when Vince says to them as a tag team, I think I'm going to break you guys up. I see something in you, Shawn. I don't really see it in you, Marty. Yeah. What a slap in the face.
Yeah.
I mean, blunt to the utmost extreme. There is a way to handle things, and everybody that has worked in WWE has said it a million times. Not the nicest place to be.
Right.
And let me get, before you answer, hold on. Before you answer, let me just give you one quote.
Yeah.
Which I thought was the epitome of the career. Mike Moran quoted as saying, Vince saw something more in Shawn. I think that Shawn was probably more in Vince's ear or ass more than Marty was.
Yes.
Which gives you the idea that those rumors were true, allegedly, about Shawn and Vince doing something on the side with each other.
Yeah.
As those stories ran rampant, as much of a ladies' man as Shawn was, there was always that story. We talked about it when the hotel door was open and allegedly they were in the room, but Shawn was passed out. And the gimmick was, well, he had to take a bunch of drugs to get through it, which I don't know if that's true or not, but that's the story that's out there. And now he's, this guy Mike is alluding to the fact that Shawn maybe did something extra to get the push.
Yeah.
And Marty didn't.
Key part of the story that is missing that puts a little more blame on Marty and does paint Shawn in not a great light, but you kind of see Shawn's side of it, and you would from the business point of view. Okay. There was a cereal box shoot that was going on for the WWF superstars. It was the Ultimate Warrior, the Road Warriors, the Rockers, and I think Kerry Von Erich. Okay. Everybody got $20,000 for this shoot, which is nice, right? For a cereal box shoot, you get 20 grand, right?
Sure.
Warrior got 20 grand, Animal 20 grand, Hawk 20 grand, Von Erich 20 grand. The Rockers cumulatively $20,000.
Split.
10 each.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yep.
Not happy.
Right.
So Marty says, this is bullshit. We're getting disrespected. I'm calling the office. We're out of here. We're giving our notice. We're not going to get disrespected by this. I can get us into WCW. We're gone. Right. So he calls, he gives their notice to the office. Okay. Shawn, not really like, I'm not sure. So Marty calls, gives the notice. A couple days later, wants to know what's going on with WCW. Marty goes, oh, I actually don't really have any kind of in there. I was just kind of bluffing, whatever. Sean goes whoop, around Marty, right back to Vince, like, I got nothing to do with this. This was his plan, not mine.
Yep.
And they end up staying with the company, but you got to think the damage is done at that point. And that was probably the first straw that breaks the camel's back, which also leads to a huge fight that they left out in the they had the fight at the hotel.
Yeah.
They had a fight backstage too that got broken up by police officers, that the only person that was able to get them out of being arrested was the Macho Man. That was completely glossed over.
Why did they fight backstage?
They just got in a fight, but there was some argument going on between the two of them. They started brawling, and there were officers backstage. The officers came in and were going to arrest them, but the Macho Man just happened to come in with his bags over his shoulders and said, like, he didn't know what was going on. He just grabbed him and goes, oh, no, officers, they're working out a storyline right now, I'll take it from here kind of thing. And grabbed him and was like, what the hell is going on? Like,
interesting.
So there's more to the story with those two than meets the eye. I think that Marty put them in too many bad situations that led to Sean going to Vince probably a few times before that. Vince was probably like, all right, Sean, you're the one I got to go with because you're the one I can trust. Mm-hmm. Marty, who was looked at as maybe the more better of the two workers at an early point in their duo.
Okay.
I think they said, no, Sean's the guy we got to go with, because Marty was a great worker. You look at their stuff between like 88 and 90, Marty was amazing, but it just kind of started to get less and less. I love Marty Jannetty. Okay. Marty Jannetty's one of my favorite tag team guys of all time, but I think that there was more things that led to Sean going to Vince that led Vince to say, you're the guy, not Marty.
Well, politics is a big thing in wrestling. A lot of the guys politic, they go in business for themselves. You have to sometimes. Now, in that story that you said about Marty saying about WCW, I would have been hot at him, because right. if there's no payoff at the end and you're putting my job on the line, I don't judge Sean for going back and saying that wasn't me, that was all him. Right. You have to protect your spot, protect your job. These guys have families that they have to go back to. You have to live. You have to make a living. For Marty to say something like that and bluff for not only himself, but for somebody else, that's bullshit. And right. I would have been hot at him for that. So I don't judge Sean for that at all. I don't think that's sneaky. You have to protect your spot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in that case, no worries. But if Sean is planting the seed and he's supposed to be really tight, I mean, the way they portrayed it, Marty kind of broke Sean into the business, going up to him, looking, hey, who's this kid, Shawn Michaels, blah, blah, blah. Marty kind of green anyway, but had more experience, I guess, than Sean at the time, taking him under his wing. And then they're like this now, right? They're brothers. They're doing everything, working, eating, training, sleeping, traveling. They're doing everything together. So in a way, it is kind of a betrayal if Sean is in their ear. But again, if he's seeing that Marty is literally going to screw up his spot, right. He kind of has a right to open his mouth and say it. My thing is, like, don't tell me one thing and then go and tell the office another. Come up to me and say, you know what? You're screwing up and your business is reflecting on my business. That would have been the right thing to do. Now, we're not there. We don't know how this happened, how it went down. But I feel like if they were such good friends, there had to have been a conversation and said, look, you're screwing up. You're going to blow the spot for us. You need to turn this shit around, act responsible. I feel like if that would have taken place, maybe something better would have happened. But the rumors that I've always heard was that Sean was in Vince's ear.
And it speaks to what we know about Shawn Michaels and what we've heard.
Well, I don't know. No,
what we've heard. I should say.
Yeah, I don't. Yes, I've met Sean, I think, twice in my life. I was on tour with him in Japan. Went out to eat, at Ribera Steakhouse one night with him. Really don't know the guy, just know what I hear. And you hear things about me all the time that aren't true. So I take everything with a grain of salt, but to me, like Sean protecting his spot, I think is 100% fine. It's the way that you go about something. Like, did he try and protect Marty, or was he just concerned about Shawn Michaels?
Right.
I don't know. No one knows. No one knows unless you were in that meeting.
Right.
And they didn't really dive into that either. Like, Marty was just saying, I didn't talk to Sean. We had that one fight and blah, blah, blah. And then you see a clip of Sean on a shoot interview. Well, one fight in 7 years isn't that bad and blah, 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 And then the part that gave me literal goosebumps was when Marty was sitting there and saying, I was going to take a pile of cocaine and I was going to do it until my heart burst. I asked God for a sign. My phone rings and it's Shawn Michaels. That gave me goosebumps, chills. Oh my God, I wanted to cry at that point, because if that's not a sign from God, I don't know what is. And now Sean is born again. He's found God, which is a beautiful thing. You know what I mean? Like it's wonderful. He has something to believe in now. He's changed his ways. He's trying to help Marty. And like he said, for 3 weeks, he lived the most purest life imaginable.
I thought that was a great line.
Then you leave and then you fall right back into what you're doing. Yeah. It just goes to show you what I said earlier. If you have somebody there who supports you and can live a righteous life and change their ways, and you need a support system. If you don't have anybody motivating you, how can you go on the straight and narrow path? You can't. You just can't. I don't think people are strong enough to do that without at least one person there guiding you in the right direction. When you're so far along like that, it's just very, very sad. So there was a hope spot, and then, it just kind of fell through again. But that point in the show, literally, I got goosebumps. I was like,
yeah,
wow.
that was very poignant. And I remember that was the very big point in the timeline. But now, before we get to the big finish of the show, I have to throw this out there. Marty Jannetty makes 14 appearances in ECW between 1995 and 1997.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember any of it?
No.
Not really? Not one?
Not really, no. It's horrible to say. I never really spoke to him when he was in the company, because it was so in and out and sporadic. You know what I mean? And like in that time frame, I wasn't one to like hang at the bar. Like once I got with Shane and Triple Threat and stuff, we didn't go to the Travel. Like I told those stories before. When I first started, I stayed at the Travel Lodge, and we would just sit at the bar till like 2 a.m. and watch. Our show came on, so we'd watch the show with the fans, and then I would go to bed, and God knows what the other guys did. But with Marty, like I remember him like kind of being there, but I didn't socialize or hang out with them. And it wasn't like an I'm better than you thing. It was just, I think everybody ran in different circles. And I don't even know who he was paired with or what he did.
Oh, this is weird. I got to read the thank you. You see, this is why we work so well together, because you have to hear who we've paired with, because I have questions to follow.
I didn't work with him, did I? Because I don't think I ever worked with him.
No.
Okay.
First match in February 25th, 1995, ECW's Return of the Funker.
Okay. So, yeah.
He gets a world heavyweight title match. Shane Douglas defeats Marty Jannetty.
Okay. Well, I was not with Shane at that point.
Right.
Okay. All right.
So that's Shane getting a match with his old friend, Marty. It makes sense. That's a great pairing because there's history. So that's good booking by Paul and company. That's great for Marty coming in. Marty's a big name at that point, too, coming in for a spot, sure. Right? April 28th, 1995, ECW in Mifflintown. Where the hell is that? Okay. Marty Jannetty defeats Jim the Anvil Neidhart.
Mm-hmm.
Jim Neidhart working for ECW.
Yeah,
I don't even remember that.
He came in for us before. Another man that I didn't know very well. It was like, but they wasn't there long. You know what I mean? It was like in and out.
Okay, then Marty Jannetty defeats Shane Douglas. Okay,
Oh.
I guess via DQ. I'm not clicking on it, but Ron Simmons defeats Marty Jannetty.
Mm-hmm.
Eddie Guerrero defeats Marty Jannetty. Marty Jannetty defeats Raven.
There you go. Okay.
Marty Jannetty and Too Cold Scorpio wrestle to a draw.
Okay.
The Sandman defeats Marty Jannetty. That's got to be a great one.
Wow. Okay.
Marty Jannetty defeats Bull Payne.
Mm-hmm.
Marty Jannetty defeats the Terrorist.
I don't know who the terrorist is. Who was the terrorist?
I don't know.
Wow.
ECW Tampa, Mikey Whipwreck defeats Marty Jannetty and a group of people in a battle royal.
Oh. Okay.
ECW Orlando, the Sandman defeats Marty Jannetty.
And this is all over 2 years.
This is mostly 95 right now. We're still got 2 more left. 95.
Okay.
Then Jim the Anvil Neidhart and Marty Jannetty wrestled to a double disqualification in New York City.
Mm.
And then actually we jump all the way to 1997 for his final ECW appearance in Orlando in a losing effort, teaming with the Vampire Warrior Gangrel against the team of Al Snow and Roadkill.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
What kind of weird Fellini
Very
ECW
random
tag team match is that?
Head meets the Amish warrior. I don't know. Wow. Yeah.
There's Marty in ECW. All right, let's get to the finale here.
Okay.
The murder, allegedly, the storyline.
You know, I don't understand. So this story comes up that he goes to buy weed at a young age. He's a teenager. Okay. Working at the bowling alley. He goes in the back alley. He gets in a car. There's an older gentleman there holding a bag of weed. Gives him the weed. Next thing you know, the older guy slips his hand between Marty's nether regions in the crotch.
Trying to find his rocker.
Very good. He goes to touch him in his private parts. He slaps him away. Now, he says first that part is 100% true. He gets out of the car. The guy proceeds to follow him, holds him down like he's going to him. And you might have to beep that out or something. I don't want to get demonetized.
Now I have to edit. Damn it. Okay, continue.
Yeah, 48, 42. Take advantage of this young kid. Marty feels around with his hand. He finds a rock, and he hits the guy with the rock. And I guess he says he hits the temple, which is not the right spot to hit or whatever. And the guy falls off him, and he's dead, apparently. He kills him with the rock. Now, he doesn't know what to do, who to call, so he goes and gets a family member, and they say, well, we can't call the police. They got to get rid of the body. Next thing you know, he's saying it's a wrestling angle that he made up. Okay. I want to call timeout. How old is he when this happens?
The
15,
story?
16? Yeah. He's young.
The actual story is 14.
He's 14 years old. Did anybody know about this when he was 14 besides the family member? Did they ever tell anybody this happened?
We don't know.
We don't know. Okay. The brother or the family member, I don't know who he called out. I don't know if it was his brother. Whoever he calls out never mentions it. We don't talk to him. We don't know who the family member is. It's just a family member, right? Years later, he tells this story to people. Now, the girl that was his girlfriend, now his best friend or whatever, the girl that they kept referencing to, she says the story is 100% legit, and he did kill the guy. Whereas Marty allegedly says it is for a storyline because he wants to make a comeback.
He wants to make his big comeback into wrestling.
How the hell is that going to trigger a comeback? Something that happened to you 87 years ago. which has nothing to do with anybody in the business. I don't understand the correlation between that story and making a wrestling comeback.
Wrestling's all about realism now, it's all about connecting the dots to your real life. I don't know. It makes no sense. Okay. It makes absolutely zero sense. And it was I thought was very strange was that Darkside would put that in jest to say like, oh yeah, it's hypothetical that this is all going on. I thought that was kind of ridiculous. Cause like, what if you're sitting there in the Columbus Police Department being like, hey, we're kind of being made to look stupid now that we didn't look into it. But then I also thought Marty made a great point is why is everybody not looking past the fact I said I was 14 when this happened? And I attacked my assaulter, like I did this to somebody who was trying to rape me. Like, why I got to do it for 5140.
Yes, do it again.
Like, why is nobody coming to my defense with this? Why is everybody going after me? And that's what I thought that at the time too, when people were reporting the story, is that in the world of everybody goes to the defense of the victim, everybody was going after the person who defended themselves.
Yeah, like if this story was brought to light when it happened, a 14-year-old boy says something like this, 100% I would think it would be on the man who tried to hurt the little kid.
Right.
You're saying it years later as an adult. And when he's saying it, is he saying it as gospel that he did commit this? Or was it always, oh, it's a shtick, it's storyline? Like when he first brought this up, he put it on Facebook or something, correct? Like he told the story. So did the cops pick it up off of the Facebook post?
The wrestling media picked it up.
Yeah.
TMZ picked it up. And then the Columbus Police Department had people calling them saying, Marty Jannetty just admitted that he did this when he was a kid. And they then started to reference cold cases and missing persons. And
yeah, because there's no name associated. They never said a name of the gentleman allegedly who did this. So how do they even know who they're looking for?
Exactly. So that's where, again, it didn't make any sense to me.
I don't understand that.
Not saying that it's true or false. It more than likely true based off of all the details provided and some of the validation. Because here's why if it's true. The fact that Al Snow's like, yeah, he told this to me when we were partners. And then that one chick was like, yeah, he told this to me years and years ago. So it's one thing for a guy to make up nonsense behind a Facebook keyboard all day long. And it's another one for somebody to consistently say the same thing over and over to multiple people.
And he's telling multiple people that happened. And that's what I'm saying. Like, is he telling people it wasn't a storyline? And then he gets caught saying this stuff finally on the internet, and now he's retracting and saying, no, it's just made up. It's a storyline, brother. We're in the business.
Blah, just blah, like blah. Jimmy Snuka a few years ago. So Jimmy Snuka's story about the girlfriend was out there for 30 years. But when he wrote his book and he did his media tour, that's when people were like, hey, wait a second. Some of this doesn't make sense. What he's saying that, she went to take a pee-pee on the side of the road and she fell and cracked her head open in the way that doesn't make any sense. And then they did the investigation and Jimmy Snuka lived the rest of his life in jail. So, I mean, it doesn't make any sense that you would go out and try to change how it was perceived if you went around telling people all this time. It just goes to say, hey, don't open your mouth when it comes to everything, because it's not the same audience it used to be. It's the world now versus it being a closed little, circuit.
I'm so confused on, that story confused. And I know we're running long here, but the one thing we skipped over that I didn't understand really quickly was when he did the move, the rocker dropper or whatever it was called, and the guy broke his neck.
Austin.
How can a wrestler sue a company for negligence? That I didn't get. He tried to sue them.
1990.
We know when we go in that ring, accidents happen. People take bumps wrong and things, can go awry. He took the bump weird, like in that footage, like they were saying, he dove into the ring instead of taking it the way he was supposed to.
You're just supposed to drop.
telling Marty, I've seen it. I know what it is. Don't worry about it. And then he goes and he plants his head like he's diving into a swimming pool and he breaks his neck. How can you take that to court?
Yeah.
That I didn't understand.
1990. That's it. Now, there's an, I think it's Inside or Current Affair, I think I want to say back in the day. Remember Current Affair? How that was like
the lady was talking about it.
It's still online. It's on YouTube. It shows the whole thing, the interview with Chuck Austin from back in the day. And he's done interviews since, so he's been out there talking about it. But I just equate that to being 1990. Would never happen now. WWF or WWE has you sign so many waivers, and they're not responsible for that kind of stuff. And I don't think how could that be?
I don't think they should be. We know when we step in through those ropes, we're risking our lives in there. We're all aware of that. So that part, I was like, wow, they went to court.
Like, ask Droz. Was Droz suing D'Lo Brown? You know what I mean? Like, it absolutely, that is more lined up to the guy was not properly trained and didn't know how to take the move. And then the thing so Dean Malenko going into the trial, was that in support of Chuck Austin or in support? That I didn't get because I had never heard that before.
They just show walking down the aisle.
Somebody get Dean Malenko on the line. Get Dean Malenko the link. Let's get him on right now.
I have no idea. I just found that to be so crazy. I was just like, man, so many people got injured. I can understand, like, if you try and sue to get your medical bills paid and stuff like that. But $24 million at one point. I was like, wow, that's crazy.
And, and I know a friend of ours who had a similar situation happen where company was sued and he was involved in the lawsuit. And his royalties were hit for many, many years. So it happens. And if you're found guilty and they will take that money every time you're supposed to get a check, they will take that money out of your check. And if it's not going to be a lot of money to begin with, then what's the point of even getting paid? So
I don't know.
And the rocker, that's rocker money. That's 1990 rocker money. So that was going to be a shitload of money to begin with.
Yeah, I don't know. Overall, I found this to be a good episode. Again, I just wish they would have dove into the personal stuff a little more, like the hotel rooms and the dynamic between the two of them and the ladies, because there's so many stories out there that didn't get touched, and I think they should have elaborated a little more on that.
100% agree.
100% yeah, but overall, it's a sad, again, Darkside, a very sad ending for what seems to be a nice guy, just troubled.
Oh yeah, he's a great guy.
And terrible situation with his ankle and his foot and all that kind of. It makes me upset. Again, these guys have nothing to fall back on, and it's heartbreaking. So
yeah, Chadster trivia. I was supposed to work with Marty Jannetty. Had a conversation with him, literally walking through New York City. And guess what happened? Hurricane Sandy. And he and I were never able to get back and sync up again. But he was living in Toms River, New Jersey for quite a while. And he and I had it all lined up. We were going to do something together. And Hurricane Sandy came and wiped out that area of New Jersey in 2012. And we were never able to get back on the same page. So, but he was awesome. I mean, he was great. And just he's funny, engaging, and it's a shame to see like how bad things are. Busted my balls about the Mets all the time. That was another funny thing. Big Braves fan, so we won't hold that against him, though.
Right? Yeah.
So, all right. Well, we appreciate you sticking with us. This was a lot longer than I thought it would ever go, but it was
a lot to talk about.
It was a lot of fun. So. We'll see what happens next with the next season, because there was one guy who did not get included, who was originally on the list. So,
well, no, he told me yesterday. He goes, I was always filmed for season 5.
Yeah, but they put him on the original list when they put out the press release.
I don't know. That's what he told me yesterday. I said, good. I'm glad, because I thought I missed you. I don't.
Sandman in season 5, so we'll get ready. We'll get ready for that. So. We'll catch you next time. The Eyes Up Here YouTube exclusive. grab yourself a membership, subscribe. It's free. Like this video, share it, and keep your support coming and those cards and letters safely rolling in. So we will get out of here for today. For the Queen of Extreme, this is the Chadster. We will catch you on the flip side.